get that list free from the title company. You tell the title company what city, what zip code you want, and you tell them, I want non-owner occupied or absentee owner. You get the list. You sort the list. You print out your card. You address the card. Is this pretty step-by-step, guys? So then the phone rings. So when the phone rings, you answer the phone. Right? Answer the phone, okay? When you answer the phone, you ask the seller, hi, why would you want to sell a nice house like this? This is an elderly couple in their 70s. A few years back, I think 3 years back, they bought a bank-owned home from Bank of America. Then they rehabbed it and they put their daughter and her husband in, who promptly smoked a bunch of meth and wrecked the house. They kicked their own kids out and had to pay for a full remediation. I know because he had the full meth remediation report. These people are meticulous. Ever met a real meticulous old guy? This is a real meticulous old guy. So, what David says is, well, look, it sounds great. It sounds like you've really done a lot of work. They fixed this thing up like they were going to live in it. So, retail grade improvements. Then David says, well, what would you like for the house? Owner says, I'd like $174,000. David's looking at the comps and he's like, maybe, and if so, that's top retail price. How many of you would balk at a retail price on a house you were going to buy and flip or buy and rent? It's okay, raise your hand, okay? David says one key phrase. I'll give you your price if you agree to my terms. What did the seller say? Yes. The seller said, that sounds good to me. So what David negotiated was he wanted a 10-year term, and he wanted to pay $500 a month. And at the end of the 10 years, he would pay him the balance. What kind of interest rate is that? Zero interest. Seller said, that sounds okay. That's what the seller said. But actually, I'd like 2%. David says, okay, 2% means 15-year term. Seller says, okay. But David says, I'm not changing my payment. My payment will stay at $500 a month. Seller says, okay. David says, what kind of down payment are you going to put? David says, I will give you $6,000 as a down payment. However, I want it to apply to my first year's payments. So David gets $6,000 up front. That's the first year's payments. When's this next payment due? 12 months, January of 2015. David pays $1,441 in closing costs. David writes a check for $7,441. Gets the deed to the house. Gives the owner a note, a deed of trust, in the amount of $168,000, right? Because it was $174 minus the $6 that was applied. David makes $500 a month payments for 15 years, at the end of which he'll owe the owner the balance at 2%, which will, I don't have the amortization schedule, but it's a little bit of a funky amortization because the true amortization on a 2% loan should be $619.53. So David's actually paying less than he should on a 30-year am because he went after the payment. Now, if you haven't calculated quickly what David's cash-on-cash return is, you understand that David's collecting, oh, by the way, he rented it out in 30 days, actually 20 days for $1,100 a month. That's pretty good, right? Look, I've been telling David for 3 years how to buy real estate, and he finally listened to me. Is that true? Yes, sir, he says. Submit to the process. So what I decided to do was I decided to calculate his rate of return. Does everybody know how to do that? I'm going to show you. Great application, HP 10B2 financial calculator. So David puts in $7,441, right? So what's his first year he's going to collect? We'll work on gross numbers. Is he going to collect $1,100 times 12 months? Is that $13,200?
Yes.
That was his gross numbers, correct? Yes.
From my perspective, I didn't put in 7441, I put in 1441. I just paid the first year's payments in advance.
Right. I want to show you how I would work this. So we're going to collect $1,320, right? But what did we put in? 7441 divided by 13,200. Is that okay?
Yeah.
56%. By the way, if you put in a true 1441, How long is it going to take him to be even on the deal? It'll take him 6.7 months. So after he's collected almost 7 months in rent, how much money does David have in this deal? $0. Does David still own the real estate? Does David still get amortization, depreciation, appreciation, tax benefits? Now I submit this to you because if you guys haven't set a budget for yourselves for growing your business, like doing postcards, which he does, like doing mailers, like knocking doors, your phone's not going to ring. You're not going to get the seller to call you, and you're not going to get the opportunity for them to say, yeah, I'll do that. Now, these sellers owed no money on this house. It was a free and clear house. But what were they getting? Nothing. I want you to make something really clear. I'm showing you this because slreia has asked me to do a class to tell you for 3 hours to go through deals like this for you on April 26th for $98. So you can see Lisa outside and get one of these forms. And for $98, I'll spend actually 3.5 hours and I'll show you how I do that. What I want to make sure you understand is that this is not a loan. That owner did not make a loan to David Kent because banks have money and banks make you loans. This seller sold the property to David Kent, and David Kent in return got to name his payment. Does that make sense? So for those of you out there that think that this doesn't happen, drive by that house, don't disturb the tenants. Or see David Kent, he'd be glad to gloat about this deal. He says in his email to me, this was easily our best deal to date. Thank you, and I look forward to talking about it at the meeting tonight. So, give a round of applause for David Kent.